Well, howdy, y'all. This is Jason Elgato, one of the co hosts here at the Confessing Baptist podcast. Today is Thursday, March the 7th, 2015, and this is the Dunker Bunker, your weekly audio headlines. Wait, I got that all mixed up. This is the headlines from the Dunker Bunker, your weekly audio source for all things 1689. And with me today is
Eric Ayala, once again.
Yes, thanks for joining us, dude. I was getting lonely podcasting by myself these last couple weeks.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back, and maybe I can help you not be so lonely.
Thank you. All right, well, with that, let's just go ahead and dive on straight into the news.
First post we had was from actually a new conference coming up June 25th through 27th, and that's the 2015 Reformation Montana Conference. And the theme this year is on the church. It will feature J.D. Hall and, of course, a number of other speakers as well. Let's see. The speakers we had lined up are Paul Washer, Phil Johnson, James White, Vodi Bakum, Seitan Bruggencate, Chris Roseborough, and Justin Peters. So that's quite a lineup.
Those are the ones they've had since 2012.
I see. Yes, 2012. Yes. So this year they'll have Phil Johnson, Mike Abendroth, Todd Friel, Chris Roseborough. And once again, the theme is on the church, which is always a good topic to go over.
Indeed. Registration, $35, and way out there in Billings. So he also JD did also post that if you need help getting to the conference or anything like that, they have scholarships. So we linked to all that. You can check it out at the Reformation Montana site. But that's really all the news we have. If you want to see all the other upcoming events that we've linked to in the past, the ones that are coming up soon, you can go to confessingbaptist.com/upcoming. And actually, since it's the first month of or it's the first week of the month, I usually try to go over the upcoming ones. Let's see what's coming up. Well, today there is a debate with James White and Landon Flowers. We've talked about that. There's a couple other ones going on now. Let's see. May 20th through July 8th, there's an apologetics course with James White at Phoenix Seminary. May 26th through the 28th, Suffering in the Church. That's the Banner of Truth's U.S. Ministers Conference in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. May 29th through the 30th is the Southern New England Reformation Conference in North Province, Rhode Island. That's featuring Steve Lawson there. And it looks like that's all there is for May. The last couple months have had tons. So, yeah, with June, though, I'm looking at the upcoming in June. It's just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So if you want to see what's coming up, see if there's anything in your area, confessingbaptist.com/upcoming. You can find that info there. With that, that's all we really got for the news. So let's jump into the books. First one we had was a article that came out in the most recent Credo Mag. Credo Mag is an online magazine that you can download for free. It's a PDF and whatnot. One of the articles that may be of particular interest to our group here would be this one by Michael A.G. Haykin, The Making of a Great Theologian, Remembering Andrew Fuller. And just as an FYI, there's lots of Andrew Fuller posts this week because this was the bicentennial anniversary of Andrew Fuller. Well, that is his death. Today is actually would be the 200th year anniversary of his death. So lots of posts about the great Baptist Andrew Fuller. So this one's pretty self-descriptive in the title, Making of a Great Theologian. Some of the topics that Haykin goes over in this article about Fuller is his conversion, his refuting high Calvinism, his pastoral heart, and his devotion to a sovereign God of grace. So you can check that out. That's in PDF. And with that, I'm excited about this next title of this one. I love this title. You want to tell us about this?
Well, let's see if I can say it. A Calvinist responds to an Arminian responding to a Calvinist critiquing an Arminian's book on prevenient grace. And that's
got it.
Tom Nettles. Yes. I couldn't help but thinking about a dude playing another dude who's another dude, but
a dream within a dream within a dream
within a dream. Yes. So once again, this is a Tom Nettles book, and it's dealing with Dr. Brian Shelton's book, Prevenient Grace, God's Provision for Fallen Humanity. And in this book, Dr. Shelton defends an Arminian perspective on the subject. And in the review, Dr. Nettles offered a respectful critique from the Calvinist perspective of the book that Dr. Shelton wrote. So if you can understand what I'm saying there with the line of the sentence, it's basically a critique of prevenient grace. I would be interested to hear the biblical argumentation that was made for prevenient grace.
Yeah, it is brought out in these couple of posts, briefly, obviously. That this is, I think you said this is Tom Nettles' book, but this is Tom Nettles' review of Dr. Brian Shelton's book. So
Right.
it's his review, and then Brian Shelton critiqued or responded to Nettles' review, and then it kind of went a little back and forth, friendly back and forth, good stuff. So it was interesting because Tom Nettles, usually when we hear about prevenient grace, it's usually just kind of thrown out there as a presupposition, never defended. And so this would actually, I guess, be their best defense that I've ever seen of it. I'm obviously not convinced of it. I'm a Calvinist and whatnot, but at least they're trying, especially dealing with this aspect. Every time I hear Dr. Wyatt, for example, talk about on his dividing lines, especially when he has the Radio Free Genevas, he's always bringing up this specific issue. Someone give me the biblical case for it. You guys just kind of assume it, or you might throw out some verse that has nothing to do with it, or you kind of just eisegete it in there. But here it is, and so it was substantial enough that Tom Nettles interacted with it. Pretty good stuff. So it's a good friendly interaction. So want to check that out. As we were saying, another post about Andrew Fuller, the May 2005 issue of Towers features articles about Andrew Fuller and Fawcett as well. And let me read you some about this. The May 2015 issue of Towers, that's the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary's monthly publication. It's now online and in stands. And some articles that would be of interest is The Very Picture of a Blacksmith, The Life and Legacy of Andrew Fuller. That's by Haken. And in that, he explores the legacy of the great Baptist theologian 200 years after his death. So it'll be kind of similar to the one we posted earlier. Nathan A. Finn has one titled Andrew Fuller's Great Commission, Pastoral Leadership, a Model for Southern Baptist. And as the title explains, Finn examines Fuller's influence on contemporary Southern Baptist missions. And then one by Chris Ferner. I've never heard of that man, but this one's John Fawcett, pastor, poet, patron, and friend. And here's a little blurb on it. Among the colleagues and contemporaries of Andrew Fuller, Baptists can find much to admire in the ministry of John Fawcett. His reputation as preacher grew to the extent that he was invited to substitute for the ailing John Gill at Carter Lane Baptist Church in London. Upon Gill's death, Fawcett was offered the position. So there's just a little short preview there. And then there's a couple book reviews they have in there, such as that Baptist in Wars, Spurgeon Sorrows, some books we've talked about before here. I thought that one would be of interest. I think the last time we posted something from Towers, it was a year ago when it was highlighting some of the Andrew Fuller conference stuff. So the material in there wouldn't always be fitting, but some of this was. So I'm really excited to read about John Fawcett. I don't know much about him, but if you follow Jeremy Walker on Twitter, he posts a lot of tweets about him, and he's been reading a lot of him, and it's rich stuff, really good. I think it takes great skill to be able to have a really good quote in 140 characters on Twitter. So yes. John Fawcett was good at that, and they didn't even have Twitter back then, so I don't know how he did it, but that's about all on that one.
We have a sale coming up, or we don't, but Solid Ground Christian Books does, on the Benjamin Keach trilogy. And this is 3 books together. The first one is Travels of True Godliness, From the Beginning of the World to This Present Day, in an Apt and Present Allegory. So once again, long titles. This looks to be like a Pilgrim's Progress sort of allegory story on sanctification and walking in godliness, which should be good.
Dude, if you haven't read it, it's really good.
Oh, good. The Marrow of True Justification, which is one of probably Keach's most famous books of dealing with justification and the gospel and how that works. And then one that I haven't read but would like to is The Glory of a True Church. And that is, it says in this little book, The Glory of a True Church, Keach brilliantly, clearly, and succinctly explains the nature of church polity, as well as regular and orderly church discipline. So that sounds like it would be something good to dive into. Normally, it would be $39 for all 3 of these books, but right now they have it for $19.50.
Indeed. Hold on real quick. I think I messed something up here on my side. Oh, wow. Okay. So that trial ended. Remember I was telling you about that. It gives you a 10-minute trial. The way it doesn't just lessen the quality. It makes this loud staticky noise. So it was just going.
Nice.
That's so evil. Yeah. So I'm glad now all these pop-ups are coming up. Trial has ended. Would you like to? No, I don't want to purchase it now. Go away. Okay.
Do I have to redo it?
No. It won't mess up anything on you. You didn't hear any of that, did you?
No.
Okay, yeah, no, you shouldn't have. It was just coming by my side. I'll edit that out. Obviously, that was super distracting. Sorry. Yeah. And anyways, on that book, the Travels of True Godliness, there was a James Ranahan a couple years ago had set up a once a month book that he recommended. You kind of read through to kind of get some foundations in particular Baptist history and whatnot. And one of them, January, I think, was the very first one. And it was this book, The Travels of True Godliness. And June and I remember June and I reading it together and discussing it. And we were just like blown away. It's so good. Like it was up there for me with Pilgrim's Progress stuff. It was so helpful, excellent. So I wish this book was more famous, but it's not for whatever reason. So, but anyways, yeah, that's a pretty cool deal. That together these would normally be $40, but they're selling them for $19.50, so about $20. So great deal.
That's interesting that the because John Bunyan and then Benjamin Keach, that the Baptists seem to like allegory for some reason.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So yeah, and obviously came out around the same time period. So who knows? All right, on to audio and video. First up, we had the one that we let you all know was coming up, and we did post this on Friday. That's Sam Ranahan's interview on Reformed Forum regarding divine impassibility. Here's a little episode blurb from Crisis Center. This was Crisis Center episode number 383. Crisis Center being one of the podcasts that Reformed Forum comes out with. Usually people just call it Reform Forum, but whatever. Anyways, in this episode, we speak with Samuel Ranahan about the doctrine of divine impassibility. Reverend Ranahan is the pastor of Trinity Reformed Baptist Church in La Mirada, California, and the editor of God Without Passions, a Reader. Westminster Confession of Faith 2.1 says that there is but one only living and true God who is infinite in being and perfection, a most pure spirit, invisible without body, parts, or passions. We explore the theological tradition behind that declaration as well as its implications. If you'd like to learn more about the doctrine of divine impassibility, listen to Ranahan's 6-part audio series on the subject, which you can find at the Confessing Baptist, that's us, and you can listen to our interview, that's Reform Forum, with James Dozell on Crisis Center episode 237. So thanks to Reform Forum for mentioning us and linking to us so people can find some more resources on that, as we have been posting lots. It's a lot of Reformed Baptists have been putting out a lot of stuff on that. So there you go. I was recently looking at our Q&A on our website, and one of the questions says something like, how come you guys are posting so much on this topic? And we just simply put, well, we kind of just post what everyone else puts out there because we really just link to everybody. So if that's what everyone's talking about, that's what we post a lot of, whether we like it or not, or you like it or not. So
yeah, things kind of go in waves, it seems like, with the different topics that come out. So.
Yeah, indeed. So,
but the interview on Reform Forum was actually pretty good. I enjoyed how it kind of took the Confessing Baptist interview as a base and then kind of built on it after that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's definitely, that's one reason I we could have just linked to it in the Baptibot, but I highlighted it because I thought it was supplemental. It's obviously those guys, most of them are doctorates and whatnot, so they can get a lot deeper into stuff, or hit it from different angles and get into some of the philosophy and things like that, so that they know their audience would be more interested in hearing. They have obviously less interest than what went down at the ARPCA assembly or how it's affecting Reformed Baptist churches or things like that. So they'll a great supplement. I agree. So.
A new interview, which I actually just listened to this afternoon, of on the Confessing Baptist, is Reformed Baptist pastor and mayor Chris L. Marley, and so that was done at the that was the my brain is not working currently. The Means of Grace conference that was just the Southern Baptist Founders Conference, which that actually was fantastic. So if you haven't heard that, click on that link and listen to those lectures that were there. But coming back to episode 87 is the interview with Pastor and Mayor Chris L. Marley, and so that was an interesting thing just to hear of a different kind of bivocationalism where he's not only a pastor of a church, but he's mayor of a town. So
yeah, that was crazy stuff. So crazy. It was definitely the funniest episode. Like while I was editing it, it didn't take hardly any editing. I kind of just listened through it and took out a couple of dead air spaces. Oh man, I was cracking up, and I was replaying some parts for my wife, and she was dying laughing too. It was, he's a hilarious guy, but then he could he could quickly get into subjects and really excite you about them. Like when he gave his marriage advice, which was only like a minute long, my wife and I were like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's start, let's try that and whatnot. So
I would be interested to know if he ever found those two vocations being in conflict with one another, of pastor and public servant.
Yeah, it's funny because I do remember one time he did quickly mention he kind of was saying it in jest, but he's like, man, it'd be so much easier to be a mayor or be in politics if you didn't have a conscience. So I could just do kind of whatever, get pragmatic or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And then he wisely told the church, if I'm going to pursue this, you may get attacked more than we have time to defend ourselves. Are you guys with me? And and they said, yeah, they think it was a great ministry he's doing. I really loved his perspective on it. Whereas he doesn't consider himself a politician, but a public servant, which is what they're supposed to be. So
Yeah.
it seems so old school to hear that terminology used nowadays. When we think of our politicians and those in the government, we don't consider them public servants.
Well, it made me think about how we really need more strong, devoted Christians to get into public office and to exercise that. I mean, sometimes we're so isolationist and seclusionist that that's not even in the realm of our thinking of actually serving in public office. And if more people did that, I think it would be beneficial. I mean, even our confession talks about how it's suitable for Christians to be, I forget the language, but in public office and to serve that way.
Right. Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah. We're not Anabaptists who think that, even in their own confessions, it's, well, I guess that's more dealing with war, but I know they have different views on government. Anyways, I won't get into that. Anytime we bring up Anabaptists, we get all these emails from Anabaptists.
We are not Anabaptists.
Oh man, indeed. Anyways, with that, let's move on. This wasn't the whole thing, but this was an announcement of stuff that's coming out. You can view the 32 DVD video sessions through the 1689 Family Foundations in Sound Doctrine online for free. And over the next several months, the National Center for Family Integrated Churches, every Monday, they're posting one of their sessions from this 32-part series. And this is a series where it's three pastors, Pastor Scott Brown, Jason Daum, and Dan Horn, sitting in one of their living rooms. It looks like, they got some of their family members on the couch, and they spend 1 hour in each chapter. So it's an overview. They're teaching through it. They're explaining some of the scriptures through it. It's not going into great detail. It may not be something you'd hear if your church is going through it in a Sunday school and it took 2 years. Like I know some have, or I've seen some even go even further than that, deeper than that. It's a really good, I think, aid and resource for those who might want to teach it in family worship or to their own family, or just learn, kind of get an overview of the confession in kind of 32 sessions. Really good stuff. And they really strive to make it a point to bring home a lot of applications for family life, for church life, for even life living in our communities and things like that. So I think it's helpful stuff. I've seen the first 4 episodes, which is what they put out so far. And the reason I was building this post and kind of had it in draft and was collecting it, and I was going to put it out, but that would have taken 32 weeks because it's a 32-week long series. So I decided to just kind of announce it now. So if you want to follow along, you can. It's there. I will round them all up when they're all together, and that resource, they're making it out for free, which is really cool, because normally it is I think I wrote it down. Yeah, it's here at the bottom. You can buy this DVD series for $130. So it's a DVD series, 32 DVDs. It's a really thick little DVD cartridge and whatnot. It also comes with an accompanying study guide, printed copy of the 1689 Confession, and an audiobook of the 1689 London Baptist Confession as well. So I think they've had that around for, I want to say, almost 10 years or so. I forgot the exact date, but it looks like these DVDs are taken from like a VHS or something, because you kind of see like a green line on the side, and it's not the most high quality you'll see, but you're not watching it for the cinematography and whatnot, because they're kind of just sitting around in couches talking. But cool resource though. So
I just learned about this from this post here, and it looks very interesting, and I'm glad that they're coming out with more resources for the London Baptist Confession especially, and I'm wondering if this would be a good thing. I of course got to look through it, but for new members or that sort of thing, to kind of get acquainted, because a lot of people just don't like to read a book, but they'll stick in a DVD and watch it.
True. Yeah. And what's cool about it is they, as they're going through it, there's PowerPoint slides that show up. And so it shows the chapter of the confession,
Nice.
One of them reads the entire chapter, and then they go kind of paragraph by paragraph and and just explain it. It's kind of, it reminded me of how it's kind of a more open Sunday school setting is what it feels like. So except the people aren't asking questions, but the pastors are kind of talking back and forth and bouncing off each other. And I mean, all the ones I've watched, it's been really edifying stuff. So I've enjoyed it and whatnot. So and yes, you can even enjoy it if you don't agree with all the family integrated stuff. Some people are weary of anything that comes out from them for various reasons. But I'd encourage you to at least check this out. I was actually kind of like you said, I'm encouraged for them seeing more, putting more 1689 stuff out there. I remember when I interviewed Scott Brown. He told me that one of the things he really strives to do when he goes to all these various churches and all these different speaking events is make sure that they are being Christ-centered and not family-centered, things like that, these side things become the main issue. And he encourages them to, have a confession of faith. And he always, encourages them with the 69 confession and why it's such a good, thorough document, how it stood the test of time, so forth and so on. So, for what that's worth, there you go. So it's funny because I'll just tell you this month I've gotten probably like half a dozen emails from because the Confessing Baptist, we post a wide variety of Reformed Baptist stuff, and I've gotten a lot of emails from a lot of different Reformed Baptist guys, most of them pastors, who wonder why I post that guy or this guy or that guy, and I just kind of tell them like, we're trying to post all the different varying views. There are different views. There's people who agree with associations, there's people who don't, there's people who have a different view on, of the church or even covenant theology. We're just trying to put all the ones out there. Like Junior says, we put it out there, you decide. So
yeah, it's a news site. I mean, I don't know if they write into like, NBC or whatever and say, why did you report this piece of news? But it's just, I mean, that's what you do. You collate stuff on the internet and show you what's out there of Reformed Baptist. So
yeah. And it is tough because, I'll freely admit I'm not the most experienced in the Reformed Baptist circles. So there's some stuff posted and some people see and they go, oh, that had an underlining meaning of this. I go, oh, I didn't even know that. I thought he was just talking about what he said he was talking about, So I don't know if that's me just assuming the best or my ignorance or I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. So thanks everyone for your patience as we're kind of going this along. There's probably some stuff I posted in the past that I thought was newsworthy, but it may have not been the wisest thing. So I'm trying to learn more. So thank you for your patience. I don't know why I got off on that rabbit trail. Oh, I think because I mentioned National Family Integrated Church. I don't know. We're about the 1689 stuff. Some guy made a beard with it on. We thought that was funny. We posted it. I don't know if that fits or whatnot, but we'll see. You don't have to follow us, so whatever.
I love how you go from asking people to be patient to, well, you don't have to follow us. So.
You don't have to follow us. Yeah. We're not mandating anything. We're not the government here.
Yeah, but even Reformed Baptists disagree on a great number of things, and isn't that kind of the point? Is to see different perspectives, and so we can all learn from each other. And you might disagree, but hey, you disagree, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Continuing on, we have another video. It's a post from Conrad Mbewe on how to pray for Africa. It says, in this 4-minute video, African pastor Conrad Mbewe encourages us to make a place in our prayers for Africa. It is a diverse continent, which he divides into 3 major parts with corresponding requests for prayer. The Islamic North, where the church is persecuted, pray for resilience and courage in the face of opposition and pressure. The urban Africa, where there is increasing development, young professionals, and Western influence. Pray that God would keep the young, growing church's focus on Jesus and his mission rather than on Western materialistic exports. And rural Africa, where there is poverty and lack of basic amenities like running water, electricity, and ease of communication. Pray that the church will not end up in syncretism, but embrace the gospel in all its purity, not as a covering for false religion. And so that's just a prayer request from Africa and from Pastor Mbewe. What is interesting to me is I just recently learned how big Africa is. It's huge, like multiple, like it doesn't fit on a map of what you think it is because multiple continents can fit inside Africa. It's just that large.
Mm. Did you recently teaching one of your kids geography or something, or?
No, I think it was the wonderful learning from internet memes. So.
Yes. I think I've seen that memes where there's like, continents in Africa and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The learning from internet memes. Oh man, that's going to be
It's dangerous to do, but be careful.
It's very dangerous. It's headline learning.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife comes to me and she, I'll kind of throw her under the bus a little bit. I kind of make fun of her a lot because a lot of her news source comes from the Facebook headlines, which a lot of that's clickbait, anyways. But she's like, babe, did you know that your beard is as dirty as a toilet? I was like, oh man. I was like, I just had to stop, and I almost showed her other headlines that say the exact opposite, but you could find any headline that says anything you want it to. I mean, anything nowadays.
Hey, Jesus had a beard, all right? So end of argument.
Oh man, that is funny. Anyways, next video before we get too distracted. James Ranahan, this was a little 2-minute video. It was some encouragement to young Reformed Baptists. This came from the Building Tomorrow's Church. He's going to be one of the speakers there, as well as James White. And this was just a really good, I was going to put this just kind of in the tweets, but I got around to actually listening to it. I was like, this is a really good, encouraging thing. And often there's not a lot of encouraging news out there. So it's like, here's some good encouragement, a little 2-minute video. I actually might just record and put it at the end of this podcast because lots of really good stuff. And I've heard Dr. Ranahan say stuff like this to me to my face, actually, as we're having lunch at at their conference or when he's visiting our church and whatnot. So when he's talking about this in this video, it's genuine. I've heard him say this behind closed doors and whatnot. He's not just trying to like, oh, someone's recording me, you got to say something super nice. It's a genuine encouragement and joy he has of seeing the upcoming Reformed Baptist younglings, I guess, if you will. Younglings. That's like a Star Wars. May the 4th was this week also, so I had to throw in some kind of Star Wars reference. The younglings. So, anyways, with that, let's get on to the opinion pieces.
Yes, there is a reflection on the 200th anniversary of the death of Andrew Fuller, once again. And this is by Michael Haykin, and what he's doing is he is giving a reflection on, was it a paper or a book by historian Albert Henry Newman. Of this, Newman says, it was Andrew Fuller more than any other individual that restoration of the particular Baptist body to its original evangelical position was chiefly due. He continues, great activity as a preacher and writer, multitudes were brought to see the consistency between a true preaching of the doctrines of grace and the most earnest effort for the salvation of sinners, and this was done through the ministry of Andrew Fuller. And so this was a bicentennial anniversary of his death and a thanking of God for his life and ministry that bore such rich fruit that we are still bearing fruit of today. You can read more of that through the post.
Yep. Good stuff. With that, let's get on to the Ask a Reformed Baptist. We actually had 2 of these that we had posted this week. The first one comes from the Decablogs Rhino Room, which we told you about before. They have a panel of different Reformed Baptist pastors. They got 150 words to answer a question. And this week's question was, how can Christians be intentional about hospitality? I love that question because it just gets down to some practical application, really. And there was 9 answers total. So here's just one of them from Pastor Nicholas Alford. He wrote, Christian intentionality about hospitality is not complicated. We're just complacent. Invite people into your home on Sunday afternoon for a meal. No one cares if you've dusted. Talk to people at church. If they're visiting, be welcoming and helpful. When someone invites you to their home, make every reasonable effort to accept. Incorporate fellow Christians into your daily life. Build real relationships with unbelievers so that they know that they are actual people to you and not mere evangelism projects. This is not rocket science, and yet Peter has to tell us to do it without grumbling, as he does in 1 Peter 4:9. Therefore, if we aren't showing hospitality, we're probably not lacking for opportunity or knowledge. We're probably lacking in motivation. The immediately preceding verse in 1 Peter tells us to keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Hospitality is really just living out that love. So there's one of the short little answers there from the Decablogs Rhino Room. And yeah, what I love about that Rhino Room idea they got is that each pastor kind of hits this from a different angle. So one of them goes into the Greek word. Actually, I think 2 of them go into like the Greek word for it and kind of explain it from there. Then other ones go into some other practical applications of it or how it's all connected throughout the Bible and things like that. So I've been enjoying those Rhino Room posts. So kudos to them for that.
Yeah, that's interesting because 1 Peter 4:9 and the surrounding text was actually what I preached on this last Sunday. So
Oh, nice.
interesting to read. I do wonder, though, with the Rhino Room, if they're going to have T.D. Jakes join them for.
I know it sounds like the Elephant Room, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's not homage to that. I'm knowing these guys, I assume it's not.
Well, maybe with those guys, T.D. Jakes should be involved, and we'll actually see some interaction that matters on that. But anyway, I'm sure you'll get hate mail for that. Next post. What does it mean when the Bible says you are gods? And this is a post from James White who answers that question. That is from Psalm 82:6 that speaks of you are gods, and then Jesus himself quotes it in the Gospel of John 10:34. And so James White explains the use of this passage in LDS literature is widespread. That's the Latter-day Saints or Mormons. He continues, I said you are gods is used to substantiate the idea of a plurality of gods and men becoming gods. Yet even a brief review of the passage demonstrates that such is hardly a worthy interpretation, and some of the leading LDS apologists today avoid trying to press the passage that far, and for good reason. The unbelieving Jews seen in this passage with murder in their hearts are hardly good candidates for exaltation to godhood. What is more, the Lord Jesus uses the present tense when he says you are gods. So obviously he is not identifying his attackers as divine beings worthy of worship by their eventual celestial offspring. What then is going on here? And then he continues on to explain that.
Yeah, what was interesting about that is all our stuff, whenever we post it on our website, it goes out to all our social media as well. So post on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google Plus, and whatnot. And one of the replies we had on the Facebook, usually the replies are, "Oh, cool, thanks," or thumbs up, or something really silly. But this one was by another pastor, another Reformed Baptist pastor, Pastor Doug Van Dorn, and he wrote, and this is public on our Facebook site, so I'll read this. He wrote, "Sadly, Dr. White shows no familiarity with the divine council worldview. He does not interact with the scholarly journals on Psalms 82, nor with Cyrus Gordon's 80-year-old debunking that Elohim ever means human ruler." So this is really interesting. And he gives a couple more paragraphs where he's talking about this and saying, I think it would have been helpful if he would have done this or explained this, or actually he ends it here. Let's see. In all honesty, there's a profound point of apologetic engagement that we can have with Mormons if we take the supernatural view of Psalm 82:6, one that is extremely powerful here without having to sell the Orthodox farm to polytheistic Mormons in order to get there. Wow. So that's quite the disagreement he has on it. So he says, thanks for the heads up on this, cheers. And this is an older book. And so I replied back simply like, hey, we love hearing Baptist pastors, interact with each other in a gracious, friendly manner. So if you write any more on this, we'll post it. And I just saw 2 hours ago he did reply back, said, "Okay, guys, here's my reply. Feel free to link to it if you desire." So I'll probably post this later today. But it's titled Psalm 82, John 10, James White, and Mormonism, and it is a much longer post than the original one that we had posted. So it looks like a good interaction there. So I'm curious to read that. But yeah, there you go. So, like we were talking about earlier, there's some different views on stuff. There are some things there's not a Reformed Baptist position on. There definitely are some stuff that is, and you can find those in our Confession of Faith. That consensus document, they're not a compromise document, as Mark Jones might call it, but a consensus document. Big difference there. But yeah, so cool stuff there. But anyways, that brings us to the headlines from the Baptibot. And there was one podcast this week, and it was, besides our own, it was from someone else who has interacted with some James White stuff before, Pastor Jeff Riddle, his Word Magazine. This was his episode number 36, and this was titled "The Ending of Mark, Cessationism and Apologetics." And actually, I did listen to this one as well, and he actually does interact with some apologetic material from Dr. James White. So, yeah, again, there's some differing views on some different stuff. And, these issues, some of these things aren't confessional. Actually, Jeff Riddle might argue that some of this is confessional, but I'll leave that. You can listen to this podcast. He explains that more. So I probably just whet your appetite and give you a tease there. But yeah, there you go. Eric, you want to tell us some of the blogs that were highlighted on this week's Baptibot?
Yes. Tom Chantry at the Chantry Notes has one called Imagine. J. Ryan Davidson has one, Early Church Catechisms and Dads. That sounds like something I'll click on. Paul Helm at Helms Deep has one, Baptist and the Early Church, another one I'll probably click on. Gospel Coalition has 2 new Baptist histories coming this summer. Sure, let's see, Baptist History in America, and some other books I think that are coming out from them. Dale Crawford at By His Grace and For His Glory has a post about Facebook addiction. John Sampson at Effectual Grace. There is now an Italian translation of his book, 12 Whatabouts, Answering Objections Concerning God's Sovereignty and Election. Jeffrey Smith at Burning and Shining Light has a post, The Gospel is Not Only for the Lost. That is very true. And then Terry Delaney at Christian Book Notes has a post entitled Going Beyond the 5 Points. Let's see, and then Christian Book Notes, actually in the table of contents for that, we have Chapter 1, The 10 Commandments in the Christian. That's by Richard Barcelos. Chapter 2, The Regular Principle by Sam Waldron. Chapter 3 is Covenant Theology by Earl Blackburn. Chapter 4, The Church by Earl Blackburn. And then Chapter 5, The Legitimacy and Use of the Confessions of Faith. That's by Dr. Paul Martin. And there is a 33% discount until May 15th for that.
Yep, and that discount is if you order it via Solid Ground Christian Book. So we've linked to that in the past, and I'll try to link to it when I get around to this. Yeah, as you all should know, well, if you're a first time listener, and we've got a couple new listeners and whatnot from some various sources, I've been getting some emails about. We do link to everything we talk about today on this podcast post. You can find it all there. And of course, we also link to all this stuff on our social media and all those things, so you can check all that out. Yeah, I'm excited because I do have an interview lined up next week with the editor of that book, the Going Beyond the 5 Points, Rob Ventura, and I think we're also going to get Earl Blackburn on. So I'm excited because he does 2 of the chapters, Covenant Theology and the Church. So I think it's going to be a good discussion. I'm looking forward to it. I just need to finish up the book and write out the questions. So I'm close though, but I'm looking forward to that. With that, let's get on to some of the tweets that came out this week. A little notice from Institute for Reformed Baptist Studies. You can take the lectures anywhere you get service. The lecture service and study center are both accessible on mobile. There's a little screenshot there that it works on phone, so that's kind of cool. You can get some Reformed Baptist Studies there on your mobile device. Thomas Kidd, this was a pretty interesting tweet. A 1794 survey estimated that 956 out of the 1,032 Baptist churches in America were Calvinist. So that's some stuff I'm sure any of y'all that follow the founder stuff would be interested in. Some limited edition beard collector's cans for Father's Day's out, and they also have this whole collector item set. I saw someone on the Facebook Reformed Baptist forum asking about, what should I get my husband? Father's Day is coming up, and I linked to the 69 beard set. I think she specifically said he likes beards and beer and something else with a B, Baptist. I don't know, probably. But this is a great set. There's a picture of it. You can check it out on the site. Conrad Abayway gave a notice that John DeVito, who has worked at Covenant Baptist Theological Seminary there with Sam Waldron, it looks like he might be, or he's hoping to come from the U.S. to work with them for the African Pastors Conferences. So that would involve quite a move for him. And or I'm not sure if he's moving or if it's just going to be him organizing that. But I think they do like 20-something conferences around Africa. So again, the Reformed Baptist movement in Africa is growing greatly. So that would be a great aid. He does a lot of administrative stuff like that already. So we posted some pictures from the Truth and Love conference. That was this week. That was Dr. Oakley. Sorry, I'm looking at Twitter. James White. So I posted some pictures from there that people took. I got a couple different pictures I linked to that have some of the, some quotes and whatnot. Let's see, what else do we got here? Anything newsworthy? Blah, blah, blah. A little more quotes. James White did post some thoughts on tonight's debate in Dallas. He didn't post that on the blog. He only posted that on his Facebook and linked it to Twitter. So we'll highlight that in the tweets. And then Steve Weaver let us know that on the 200th anniversary of Andrew Fuller's death, this was just a couple hours ago, he said this, I am transcribing a 19th century biography of Fuller for republication, still relevant. When asked which one it was, I think Jeremy Walker asked him. He said he couldn't say yet. So, but he gave a pretty good hint of what it might be. So you can check that out, and you can probably figure out the hint from there, but I guess we're technically not allowed to say if he's not. So I will honor that request there. So, all right. With that, I think that's all we got. You got anything else, Eric?
No, that's it for me.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining me today. That way I don't have to be solo. I'm much
Yeah,
happier
it was
now.
fun.
Do you hear the happiness in my voice?
Yes, you're not alone.
You and I. Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm not going to sing that song. Okay. All right. Well, with that, you can find us on Facebook, Google Plus, email, all the social media stuff. Blah 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 blah. Feel free. Keep sending us in any events we've missed or posts we should post. That's extremely helpful. We got a lot of those this week from y'all. So thank you guys, and we'll try to keep giving you the news from the Reformed Baptist world, and keep trying to figure all this stuff out. All right. Thanks for joining us on this journey. All right. Peace.